Shot looks good.
It looks great. Looks perfect. You look good.
So what is the comedian? What did you say? 2 chairs and a...
2 chairs? Is that me?
Yeah, you were saying that one of the guys, the comedian guy on The Hangover, what's his name?
Galifianakis.
Yeah.
Between 2 ferns.
Between 2 ferns.
That's it.
All right, I think we're ready. Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the very first Richard Neese podcast. We may change the name of that later on, but this is going to be the first episode. My name is Richard Neese. We've done a couple different podcasts, business related. I've done one that was real estate related. I'm a real estate broker. But I really wanted to focus more on, well, not focus more, I wanted to be more general. I wanted to bring influential people in to talk about what they do, how they do it. That doesn't matter if it's an athlete, if that's a business person, if that's somebody that's a devout Christian, a devout Muslim, just to discuss those type of things. Who are you? What made you that way? How do you excel in what you do? And it really kind of favors The Tribe of Mentors, a book that I read, one of my buddies, Kevin Stapp, gave me, just talking about patterns of success. So I wanted to start off with that. And it wouldn't be fair if I got to interview everybody else, go through a list of questions, grill them, if I wasn't the first one on deck. So I'll be the martyr the first time. I'll be the sacrificial lamb, and I'll go through these questions. And to be fair, I have no idea what the questions are. We're going to send this out for other folks, but apparently my team, our real estate team, has made up a list of questions for me. No idea what they are, so we're going to roll with it, and hopefully there won't be too many expletives or anything like that. So I've got Louise Minardi with me. Louise, he manages our social media. Louise is a up-and-coming entrepreneur in the Airbnb world. He's been working with us about 4 or 5 months. He's an inside sales associate for us, but that's just the ground level. I mean, the guy's got a ton of potential. He's going to be interviewing me today. This may be his last interview, depending on how it goes. We'll see. But Louise, you want to say hey to everybody?
Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here. And I remember the first time that I met with Richard, and we sat down at a Moe's barbecue, and I got grilled. And it wasn't the greatest experience, so it's my turn. We're turning the table around.
That's right. It was the first interview. So remember, guys, if you guys are checking us out on Spotify, make sure you follow us on there. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, check us out. YouTube especially, subscribe. We want to build up that base. We want to give value to you guys, the consumers, the customers. We want to help you have a better life. My slogan for my real estate team is helping good people get to a better place. That doesn't just apply to real estate. That's in life in general. We love helping guys and girls start new businesses. We like pushing folks to climb walls like we did today. I don't know if you guys can see the sheetrock dust on Louise today, but we were at one of our projects, and I was getting them to climb up the wall to check out some stuff. So we always like pushing the limits, whether that's climbing a mountain or starting a business or whatever that is. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Go ahead, Louise. I'll let you lead the way.
Let's do it.
You can give the format and we can go from there.
So I've got the questions written down for you here. I can't let you see them.
Okay.
So to start off, so everybody, when you look at Richard Neese, you see this big guy. He's building. I'm
really not that big.
I'm
5'8", 195 pounds. But okay.
True. Yeah. But you're building this empire pretty much. You're doing all this work. You're a go-getter. That's what people see on the outside. So let's talk a little bit about, what were you like growing up?
So growing up, I went to a small school in North Alabama, Vinemont Middle School, Vinemont Elementary. We actually didn't even live in that area. We were about a mile and a half from the bus stop, but it was the better school district, so my parents would drive me to the other bus stop. We'd drive up there, get on. But I was really a quiet kid, a lot of energy, like most boys are. I was really, really slow, slow mentally in a lot of ways because I couldn't grasp basic concepts. I remember it took me 2.5 years to figure out how to tie my shoe. I had to figure out things differently because the way that I process is different than a lot of folks. So when I look at a problem, and that's a weakness and a strength, right? So when I look at a problem, I have to come at it from a different angle because I typically don't understand basic, especially mechanical stuff. I just suck at it. I have to use the directions. You can take my man card. I have to use the directions for every toy set I put together. Everything that we do that way. It takes me 15 minutes to figure out how to do very, very basic man things. But once I get it figured out, then I really dive into it and understand all of it. But as a kid, I was the same way. I was really good at certain skills. Math and science guy, which is kind of weird because I'm not mechanical, but I loved math and science. I really hated everything else except PE. I was good at that, right? Stats. I remember when I was a kid, we would play wiffle ball, and instead of just going out and playing, we actually kept stats on, what our on-base percentage was and stuff like that. It was a good time. I enjoyed doing that. And then we're doing a dedication, not a dedication. What is this? Every Sunday, we're talking about people that have valuable experiences in our life. And so I talked about one of my buddies, Will Drake, a couple weeks ago. And when we talked about him, he was actually the reason that I went to the private school that I went to in high school, which was St. Bernard. And St. Bernard was great because before, at the public school I was at, they taught you how to pass the test. And I was really good at passing tests. Like, I figured my mind wrapped around, I can memorize these certain things, and I know I'll pass the test, but I wasn't really learning anything. So I was kind of in the AP classes, the math team and all that stuff in 7th and 8th grade. And then in high school, it was a whole new world for me because at St. Bernard, they challenged me to think. It wasn't what is the right answer, it's why is this the right answer, and what's the best answer. So questions like that really started getting me to think and process, and that's really what's made me who I am today, because it's not one answer. There's so many ways you can attack a problem, and I think that's what makes me good at real estate and a lot of other things as well.
So when you were young, when you were growing up, what did you want to do with your life originally before you got into all this?
So I've been blessed to actually have done most of it, besides being an NBA basketball player.
Nice.
5'8", 195 pounds. I know it's possible, not for this guy, though. I didn't put enough time into it, I guess. So I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to be a policeman. A lot like my dad. My dad's a military guy. Basically, my heart has always been of service. I see other people in need, and I want to try and help those folks. It doesn't matter if it's a pickup game where it's a stacked team. I'm like, all right, I'll go on the other team, and we're going to beat you guys, because that's just how we work. We want it to be fair. We want it to be everybody have a fair shot. But growing up, I was we weren't poorest of poor, but we didn't have a whole lot of money overall. And so I saw how many struggles the people in my circle ran into. So for me, it was service. How can I help people out of a situation where they've got a drug addict dad, a drug addict mom? How can I serve my country? Because that's what a man does. That's what a noble person does, is they serve people that can't serve themselves, or protect people who can't protect themselves.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to do, was football play, athlete for a little while, but it was mostly soldier, and it was a police officer.
Nice. So you accomplished those things, obviously, but now you're sitting here, right? So at some point, things changed. So what was that turning point in your life, that like wake-up call moment that you're like, I need to do something bigger?
So I don't know that that's a tough question, because I don't know that what I'm doing now is bigger than what I was doing as a soldier, as a policeman. It's just using a different talent, a different tool, skill sets to serve more people. That was the biggest thing. When I started looking at, I was a pretty good cop. I mean, I was honors, top of my class at the police academy. Same thing with the military. I was always on that top tier. But with the police officer, or a sheriff's deputy, it was a one-to-one call. So I would go out, I would help one person in need. I would look them in the face. I would figure out what the problem was, whether they need to be arrested, they need to be saved from themselves, they needed to split up because they were having domestic violence. But what I kept looking at and what I kept hearing was that if you have affluence, if you have money, if you have power and wealth, then you can help more people. Instead of one person, you can solve 10,000 people's problems. And so I kept looking at that on a grander scale, and I said, well, how can I do that? And it kept coming back to, you need to have some sort of financial stability in order to help those. In reality, I mean, we're doing all this stuff. I love doing the stuff we do. It's fun for me. Sometimes we make money, sometimes we don't. It just happens that way. But what I really love doing is being a philanthropist. I love giving people opportunities that they wouldn't have had otherwise, and building, with the business side, with personal growth. I love doing that part. I think that's what I'm best at, is pushing people to their limits and then making them exceed those.
Nice.
So does that answer the question?
For the most part. So you were looking at, I mean, when you were a police officer, were you in the military, you were solving sometimes individual people's
That's
problems.
right.
So you got to thinking, how do I solve many people's
That's
problems?
right.
Well, you need to be financially independent.
That's
more
right.
financially stable to be able to give back to more people. So that's
And I
what
wanted
led
to
you into
facilitate that too. Like one of the things that I'm passionate about, education, self-education, education in a traditional sense as well. I love my law enforcement guys, but I kept looking at the problems that they had, and all these guys that were very, very talented and really a better fit, they were better cops than I was. They kept running the same problem, and that's they had to go get a second job. They didn't have the funding for to continue to work as a police officer. They couldn't take care of their kids, sending them to Sacred Heart or St. Bernard private school. So is there a way that I could help those guys that are really, really great at their job keep doing their job? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like in some of the bigger departments, they have complimentary housing for police officers, things like that, so that you don't have to pay them so much, or you can the budget would be lower, but they could still do what they love doing overall. And so I kept looking at that. How can I facilitate the K-9 program? How can I serve these soldiers that served us and lost their lives, lost their limbs? I can serve them in a better way if I can scale that. And so how can I figure out how this money thing works? And if I can understand that, I can teach other people, but I can also help so many other people. And that
Right.
just slowly listening to Jim Rohn, listen to all the motivational speakers, Tony Robbins, all those guys, they kept saying there's a formula here. There's something that you can figure out, and once you get that formula down, you can repeat it. And at that point, you can do so many more things. And that's not to take away from anybody that does it on a different scale. I mean, you got Mahatma Gandhi and people like that said, I'm not going to touch money, but I'm going to save the world as well. So, but for me, this was the quickest route for me to help more people.
Right. And that leads me to the next question I have for you is, so you decided that you wanted to help more people. You wanted to do it on a grander scale. So what led you into real estate as a vehicle for doing that?
So Rich Dad Poor Dad was... So I was listening to a few books. One of them was 6 Figures in 6 Months, self-help books, how to understand money. And I kept hearing the same thing over and over again, same books. Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so when I heard those 5-6 times as I'm reading these, I said, I'm going to pick these up and I'm going to try and understand. And everybody, you have about a 50-50 mix on Rich Dad Poor Dad, because people say, oh, it's not real, it's not truth. If it takes that to figure it out, there's no real steps in there to become wealthy. What it did for me was it allowed me to do just like tying my shoe. Everybody says loop, swoop, and pull. I couldn't figure that out. I don't know what it was. I couldn't figure out loop, swoop, and pull. But I figured out my own method of doing that from a different angle. And that's what Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about, is changing your mindset so that you can see these problems, see these solutions and opportunities, and then make the best decisions overall. So Rich Dad Poor Dad was huge for me, but reading those books pushed me into that realm. And then I started looking, a lot of guys in law enforcement, they get a job at Lowe's, at Home Depot, good jobs overall. But for me, I wanted to find something that would be more financially satisfying. If I can sell one house, that's a month and a half worth of Lowe's second job stuff. So that's what I was looking at. And I also knew that more millionaires were made from real estate than anything else. So how can I do that to create passive income, which brings me back to the philanthropist side.
Right.
So I get to go do what I want to do, which is help people serve, hopefully start breaking the cycle one day, the nonprofit I want to start. I can do that stuff in my free time because I've got passive income.
Right. No, it makes perfect sense. So when you decided that, because real estate is the method in which most millionaires are made, what kind of support system did you set up, or what kind of support system did you have when you got started in all of it?
My support system was, honey, I love you. I'm about to cash in 2 retirements, my military and my law enforcement, which was around $12,000-13,000, and this is the only plan. Now, this is not plan A and B. This is the plan. I've got to go do this. And so my thought process was, if I get into real estate sales, I can make some money while I learn how to real estate invest, which some people would argue that's good. Some people would argue it's bad. It's the method that we've gotten here. But I realized that I could service 1, 10, 25, 100 people just in the real estate sales side and then pick up stuff from those guys. So what I would do is I would talk to their investors. I would go to auctions. I would find people that are doing what I want to do, and I would pick their brain. And then I would say, why is that Why is that the golden standard? Why can't we do this? The same thing with everything else I've done. It was that St. Bernard teaching of how do you think, not what's the right answer. So you question everything, and when you start questioning everything, that's when you really start learning, and then you can teach as well.
So you pretty much went into it kind of blind, I guess you could say. You
Absolutely.
didn't really have a mentor holding your hand along the way.
Well, you have mentors that come along. I'll say my gratitude post, that was the word I was looking for the other day. Jeff Taylor is a guy that I went to school with his son. He was a real estate broker. He was also a timber broker, a man that raised 5, 6, 7 kids basically as a single dad. This man has done everything and is still a devout Catholic, took care of them, sent them all to St. Bernard. That's an accomplishment. And so we connected with Jeff based off of Gabe, his son. He was also one of my basketball coaches. And I just reached out to him and said, hey, I want to do something different. I think that this is the route I want to go. And he responded. He could have said, you know what, everybody's getting into real estate, I want to talk to this guy. But he didn't. He invited me to a career night. I went, and Jeff literally helped me with my first listing, with my first showings. I mean, all of that stuff. And I've actually got, let's see if it's up here. This was a bet that we made, Jeff and I. So it was my first year in sales, and we had a bet to who could get more sales. It's actually a $4 million goal, which in our area is pretty strong. But he led me as a man, as a business person, and as a real estate agent. So Jeff was a mentor of mine. But as far as structured training, I would say Weichert has a great system. That's who we work with. They had a great online system. And then YouTube.
Nice.
If you guys are watching YouTube, so I would find every top agent I could from California, Arizona, Dallas, Atlanta, and I would watch them. How do you do your open house? How do you do this? How do you do that? What are they doing differently? How can I bring that in? And I also had, about my second year, I had a business coach that I started paying, Coach Michael Burt, who's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I started learning from those guys as well. So
that's great. And so, like you said, you come across these mentors along the way on your journey, but and they provide a huge, they're a huge educational resource. They're guides for you along the way. But some argue that the best way to learn something is by trying it and failing, right? And then getting back up and trying again. What has been one of your biggest failures so far in business?
So I want to talk about the trying it and getting up again. So obviously you have to fail forward. Don't just wait. But the best way to learn is from other people's mistakes. I promise you, that's the cheaper way of learning. But you never forget the ones when you do it yourself. We failed in so many instances. I've worked with builders that I went in on a spec home with them, and I literally lost, $15,000-$20,000 on it when I was the partner and I sold it. We've tried a little bit of everything. One of the first things I tried doing before I got into real estate was I thought I could be a gunsmith. I don't know if you remember from earlier, I suck at the mechanical side, so it really failed. I didn't even make it through the classes, and I'm like, oh my God. And I love shooting weapons, rifles, pistols, but I was definitely not a good fit for that overall. So we lost money there. Before real estate, when I got back from Iraq, I had probably $30,000 or $40,000, something like that, and I decided that I was the smartest person in the world. Like, I knew how to outsmart everybody in the stock market, and I became a day trader. And after about 6 months and a loss of about $25,000-$30,000, I realized I was not the smartest person in the world, and that I needed to go ahead and take a step back and start my real education. So that was the cost of my education. That was my bachelor's degree in hard knocks and a stupid tax, I would
That's
say.
actually funny because I was going to ask you if you had dabbled in day trading and that kind of stuff. I was like, no way, Richard Neese, he's never done
Oh,
that.
man. I had options trading, day trading, and I just thought I knew everything,
Yeah.
And after I lost all that money and then had to go back to work, what the best lesson I had from that is I like tangible assets.
Right.
I like things that I can develop. I like things that I can hold. I don't like things that a click of a button takes it away from me. And that's what happened, especially when it's a zero-sum game. So that was a big life lesson for me. As far as in real estate, I've failed at about everything you can imagine. I mean, we've tried marketing strategies where I've spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on stuff that didn't get us anything. And it's a constant trial and error as far as that goes. For me, it was just, in the beginning, I'm just going to try harder than everybody else. My slogan was, helping good people get to a better place was our main slogan. But I would tell people that I will show you a house anywhere, anytime. I work longer than anybody else. I'm going to show you that I'm the hardest working person in the room. And what I realized was that was the only value I was bringing. I was showed up. Well, that's the first step, but that's not the end goal. So what you see with a lot of agents is that they do that for years and never gain in any business, or slowly gain as opposed to growing rapidly. And it's because they didn't become more valuable. They didn't add more value to their customers. They didn't get better at their craft, if that makes sense.
So speaking on that, outworking everybody, showing up, staying later, coming earlier than everybody. There's a big thing going around, especially people my age. That what would you call it? There's a term for it.
The grind.
The grind. That
That's
grind
right.
mentality. So I'm very interested in hearing what you think about that. How you feel about the grind mentality, just throwing everything else out and just going hard at it 100% of the time.
So I'll give you two different versions of that. My first 2 to 3 years of my business, that's all I had. And so that was the holy grail. I'm gonna be the hardest worker ever. But what happens is, if you don't become more valuable, you're gonna burn out. It doesn't matter how solid you are. You have to have some sort of balancing factor in order to do that. Maybe that's a spouse, maybe that's God, maybe that's a hobby. You've got to have something that pulls you off of that. And what happens is, or did for me, is when you take that time to yourself, you hate yourself for it because you're worshiping the grind. When you worship the grind and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't take a second off, at that point, you're hating yourself, and there's no way you can sustain that. For me, it was, I almost felt like I had a mask on and a costume on. It was the grind costume. Like, I busted my butt and I'm working harder than everybody else. It helped me be noticed, but what really started excelling for me was becoming more valuable. My connections, my skill sets, knowing how the process worked, adding people to that process that are better at things than I am. So what I would say to you is that you have to have a certain level of grind, but the book is called Think and Grow Rich and not Grind and Grow Rich.
Right.
So you've got to have a mentality that you're going to work and work hard. But I tell you, some of the best times that I've had and made impact breakthroughs has been when I was taking a break, when I stepped outside of the grind, because you're in the trees and you can't see the forest. I mean, all of these cliches, all these sayings, they're real. You just have to understand what season in life you're in. If the only thing you have is grind, then use that. But part of that grind needs to be to grow. You have to learn a new skill set. You have to grow from that. To me, grinding as an entrepreneur is basically the same as grinding for your boss. If you never step outside of that and start growing, you're just going to be in the same spot over and over again. You're on a hamster wheel. That's my take on the grind. Now, you can't be lazy and just crush it. Even some of the most intelligent people, best ideas, if you don't take action, then it's never going to happen.
Right.
But just going all out grind all the time, to me, it's not sustainable. And I've seen people do it, and I've also seen them jump off of a cliff at the end of it because they can't maintain.
Right, that makes sense. And so reflecting back on when you got started, the process, getting to where you're at right now, would you say that there's anything that you would do differently if you had to go back and restart it?
I really don't think so. I think that you have to respect the struggles that you've gone through. I think that if I take a piece of that out, then I don't understand or have the clarity I do now on why those things don't work. Just like you were talking about earlier, learning from somebody else's mistakes or making your own mistakes and failing forward, it's ingrained in me, and I see that with every young person, with every business owner. I see those struggles internally, and there's no way that I can relate to you unless I've been through that. It makes it very difficult to. So when I've got a guy that's saying, man, I just can't hire somebody because I just don't trust them. If I never struggled with that, then there's no way that I can say, look, I understand, but you have to expect a little bit less, or nobody can be you. So you have to expect a little bit less as far as this goes, but you may gain on the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Perfect sense. And now, where do you see yourself in 10 years or so? 10, 15 years? What do you see yourself
15.
doing? Let's say 10. I like 10. It's a little bit shorter time span.
I will be 44, about to be 45 in 10 years. What I would like to do is so the Go Giver book is really important for me, the laws of stratospheric success. What I work towards on a daily basis is becoming a Pindar-like character. So where you build out these connections, these business folks, these spiritual folks, I mean, all of the experts in their field, and you are able to connect them, bring them together to grow things at a faster rate than they would by themselves.
Right.
Be able to help people accelerate. So in 10 years, I would love to be involved in 12 to 15 businesses where I'm a part owner, that I can consult for them. And then I love doing what I do right now. I love developing things, making things pretty, developing people, helping them grow. I mean, that's just what I do. We can put a number on that. We can say, oh, I want to have $100 million. But that's just not how I operate. I like the fact that we can impact more lives consistently. 10 years from now, I want to have a bigger impact as far as that goes.
Nice. I love it. And so let's talk a little bit more about Richard Neese, the person.
Uh-oh. This is the dangerous part.
This is where we have a little bit of fun. Well, first off, just to make the transition a little bit easier, what do you like to do outside of real estate? Outside of working, outside of your philanthropy? What does Richard Neese, the person, like to do in his downtime?
That's tough, man, because real estate development is a part of who I am. Like when we go out of town, I'm looking at the architecture. I'm looking at different areas. I'm like, man, this would be great over there. So it's hard to separate myself because it's not really work for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we have struggles. We have weekly meetings. We do all that stuff. But I really just enjoy making things beautiful and putting my touch on it. Or, same thing with helping people grow businesses. I mean, I'm doing that consistently whether I'm making a profit or not. And that's the cool part about doing what we do is you can continue to do that. But if you want to get kind of technical with it, so I love playing basketball. I don't get to play as much as I used to. That's one of my goals at some point. I'm going to be like that brand new 55-year-old college basketball coach. After I've done everything, you don't have to pay me. I just want to show up at a Division III school and start coaching basketball. And at that point, I mean, it's not like I have to be there. I want to be there.
Yeah.
And you can continue to develop that. And that just goes back to developing young men, developing people overall. Hard work pays off, and that's one thing that I will always believe in. And then building character, building yourself is what attracts success.
Yeah.
So that's why I continually try and do that with young men in basketball, with business owners. I've got buddies up here that are 60-something years old, and we constantly, iron sharpens iron, so we're constantly doing that, trying to challenge each other to grow in different areas because who knows, you're one skill away from being a millionaire, one skill away from being a decamillionaire, one skill away from being a billionaire.
Right.
What skill is that? You may teach that to me tomorrow, Louise, but I've got to be open to receiving that.
Yeah.
What was the question to begin with?
So it's what do you like to do outside of real estate? You said basketball.
Yeah.
You like to put your touch on things, which is funny because you said you're not good with tools.
That's right. So I speak it into existence.
Right.
And then I've got very talented people that can take care of the other stuff.
That's the key, right?
That's
That's the key to building a successful team is adding people that are better at things than you are, right?
So I've taken up a liking on mountaineering. One of my buddies has gotten me started. Hopefully, we're going to be doing some volcanoes in Mexico, and then who knows, and maybe Rainier and Denali and all that stuff.
Finish with Mount Everest.
Who knows? My buddy was telling me that a 72-year-old man summited Everest. So if you can do that at 72, I better get my butt in gear.
Oh, I know. That makes us look pitiful over here.
So I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Really, just connecting with folks. And
yeah.
You'll find that I'm not great at small talk, but these questions are great because it really hits the heart of the matter, and that's what I love doing is helping people grow, pushing them. Dominic Gill would say, I like to put people on the spot. I do in some ways, but I just like to cut through all the mess. Let's just be real with each other. Why are we here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And how do we grow and be better overall?
And so we'll be brash. I mean, you know it. Everybody knows it. Some people look at you and you're like, man, that guy is just a turd. He's so mean.
Yep.
This and that. Knowing you, even though I've only been on the team for 4 months, 5 months, something like that. I see things that are misconceptions.
True.
I hear things that people say, and I'm like, that's not true.
Right.
So what do you feel is the biggest misconception about Richard Neese?
I think that the thing that bothers folks the most is that I don't let people drain my battery. I don't let them own my time. If there's no value going on, I don't really have a reason for being there. And I'm just very cut and dry as far as that goes. And if we're sitting here gossiping about somebody, I'm not going to be your best friend because I don't gossip about anybody. I shut it down. I get mad. I may say something in 2 or 3 sentences, and then we're done, because more than likely that person's already behind us. Mm-hmm. If we're having to talk bad about them, there's a problem there. So we need to come up with a solution. I try and be solutions oriented. Most of the people that talk bad about me or don't like me. They don't even know me. They've never talked to me. They've had a texting conversation.
Yeah.
And people don't like me because I screen my calls. That's because if I'm in the middle of something, if I'm talking right here, I'm not going to take a phone call and let you eat my time up when I'm working on something, trying to get closer to my goal. And sometimes that means I call you back in 2 days. It is what it is.
Right.
I know that I've learned over the past 6 years in real estate that you only have enough juice to solve so many problems. And after that, it puts an unbearable burden on you. Mm-hmm. And so if you're number 101 call and I can't call you for 2 days, it's probably better I didn't call you for 2 days. Because if I had, it's not going to be a good conversation overall, because we only have so much energy. Right. And I'm not gonna fabricate that. I'm not gonna be fake with you. When we try and go into problem solving mode, me, my team, we're putting our heart and soul into that problem, and that solution, trying to figure it out. If you don't like that, I'm sorry, but I also can't give that away. And what I found early on was so many people want to take that time from you. They want to take 15, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Well, after 1,000 calls at 2.5 minutes, how much life have you lost? When most of the time, and I do this with you, I do this with our team, I do this with Craig, if you call me and I don't answer, probably 70% of the time you figure out the problem before I call you back. And what I want to encourage people to do is figure it out yourself. Now, if it's still there in 6 hours when we talk again or when I come back in the office, I can help you with that. But every one of you guys is capable of solving 95% of the problems that we run across.
Right.
And I do that with everybody. I do that with other agents. They don't like it, but here's a good example. As a real estate broker, we really, really think hard on our listings, especially new construction, to try and put all the information in. All the information in the listing, in the documents, everything is there for an agent to see. But I get this consistently. A phone call and a text message that says, hey, what's the selection sheet for that one? Mm-hmm. When it's there, we've already planned it out. You just didn't do your part, your part of the agreement to find that. So why is it fair for you to take that time from me? I'll never get back. And so that's probably what people most dislike about me, because I don't stop what I'm doing at that very second, pick up the phone and call them back and solve their problem for you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
And because of that, I get the reputation of being, arrogant. I get the reputation of being too good to talk to somebody, of screening calls. Those reputations are true. I mean, I do that, but there's no, to me, the self-actualization or the understanding of the business, you're lacking in that part, and that's why you can't understand it. I actually learned that from Wes Warren. I mean, Wes, I would call him and call him, he'd never pick up. If I send him a text message, he'll solve the problem immediately, send me a text message back, and then he'll also have a record of the problem being solved, because when you get so many phone calls in a day, from here, 20 minutes away, I may get 10 phone calls. Mm-hmm. It's really, really difficult for me to process all those things and remember who I was supposed to call back. But if we have a record of it through a text message, through email, through something like that, then when I get my energy back, I can regroup and solve the problem for you if you haven't solved it already.
Perfect.
So I think that's probably the thing that people dislike the most about me, is that I don't let them control my time.
Yeah. Which coming to the conclusion that you're something like arrogant or something is just kind of crazy to me, because I think back to when you met me that first time. We connected through Bruce. Right. And it's just, looking back, it's like, well, he took the time to sit down with a 22-year-old at the time. 22-year-old kid didn't know what he was doing. Right. You know, you sat down with me, you talked to me, so that doesn't scream arrogance to me.
That's right. That's
someone who's
anytime
giving.
You're in your industry anyways, if you're doing well, people are going to dislike you for the most part. Eventually they'll respect you and then hopefully grow to follow in your footsteps and try and emulate you. But when you have folks in the same industry, especially real estate, I mean, it's just so nasty that you can take things the wrong way very quickly and never even ask what really happened. So, and we won't go down that rabbit hole, but
right.
Just if I had people that would call me or message me and say, hey, I'd like to talk about this, okay, let's talk about it. I don't have a problem with that. but it's not going to be when I'm with my kids. It's not going to be when I'm having an interview with you, talking to some new entrepreneur, trying to help somebody, a battle buddy from Iraq, solve problems where he may be committing suicide. You got to think about all those things.
For sure.
I'm more than just a person that lists houses. And that's what I've had to grow to see. And once I saw that and I knew my value, I didn't back off of that with everybody else.
Awesome. And so a little bit more about Richard Neese that we want to know. Just some quick questions.
All right.
What's your favorite music?
So I really like the blues.
Cool.
Just kind of Mississippi Delta blues, Muddy Waters. And then I know what you're trying to get out here. So
no.
Follow-up questions. We
won't talk about that.
All right. So Louise, he found out that one of the things that I de-stress with is Native American flute music. So whenever I get really, really stressed, I go into a dark room and I turn that on, and that de-stresses me completely. So that's what I thought he was getting at.
Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna go there, but I do think that's real neat though, because I have that weird thing where I like to listen to Gregorian chants sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, Gregorian chants, and then Elon Musk likes to listen to sea shanties.
That's what I was gonna talk about.
No, we all have those little quirky things. How do you feel about garden gnomes?
I don't have a problem with garden gnomes. No problem at all.
So actually, when we were coming up with a list for these questions, it was like a light bulb turned on above me. I was like, hey, those like tech companies, they do those crazy interview questions.
Yeah.
Let me just.
So if we could get some sort of sponsorship from Travelocity, I love gnomes. The Travelocity gnome. Make sure you guys check them out. There we go.
For sure. So what's your favorite book?
So my favorite book is The Go-Giver. I've got several others that compete, but for me that has Christian and biblical concepts in business. But it's also helped so many people just in my small sphere. It's helped so many people understand that you don't have to be a cutthroat business person.
Yeah.
You can live your passion. You can believe in people and invest in them, and you'll get that return.
Nice. Now, when you were a kid, was there a certain TV show or something that you just could not miss, that you refused to miss? You had to run home at a certain time, had to sit down in front of the TV and watch it?
My mom may say something different, but I really don't remember that much. And what I'll say is that I was really more into kind of video games, sports games, stuff like that.
Nice.
So when I went home, I wanted to play, MLB baseball or basketball or something like that.
What about FIFA?
So not a whole lot of FIFA. So I actually played FIFA a little more in college. NCAA football was my game though. Before they stopped making them.
Awesome. Now, so I'm curious to know what you think of this. Why do you think manholes are round?
Why do I think manholes are round?
Yeah.
Louise, I don't have any idea. I mean, I see some of those workers that go down there.
Yeah.
So it probably has to be a little bit wider, and that's why I would think.
So, obviously I Googled this. The answer is they're round so that the covers don't fall in.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I learned something in my interview.
So, if you were a tree, what kind would you be?
Louise, where did you get these questions at? So, if I was a tree, I would probably be like a Japanese maple. That's what I would be.
I can't picture that in my head. I'm just going to be honest.
So, that's all right.
I'm sure it's a very elegant looking tree.
That's right. It's short and it's beautiful.
It's short.
That's right. Just like me.
I love it. Let me see. So I think I'm missing a couple questions that. So that favorite book question was Craig's. He wanted to know that. Let's see. Bruce wants to know, when you were a kid, what's the most daring thing you did? And we just went skydiving. I'd argue that's pretty daring, but he wants to know specifically when you were a kid.
So I don't remember a lot of that time. I've got a
It's just a blur.
So I'll tell you, as a kid, we had a lot more flexibility and freedom than I give my kids. So we were always, if we weren't playing video games in the house, then we were out and they would just say go. Go play, take your .22, take your .410, go out and shoot some squirrels or whatever. But we were always just climbing trees and stuff. I mean, I think that's probably one of the most daring things I've done.
Climb the tree.
Yeah, just go
Cool.
up 50, 60 feet in a tree, you know.
Awesome. So you're more of a risk taker now than you were back then.
Well, I don't know that I even... I didn't even see it as risk when we did stuff then. So I can't... there's nothing in particular that makes me think, man, that was dangerous.
I hear you.
I mean, we would be 5, 8, 10 miles away and just go walking the streets, right?
Yeah.
Streets in Coleman, Alabama. It's just out on a back county road, you know.
Well, I love it. I think that wraps up the team questions. I've got one here. What would you say is your least favorite quality? What's something about yourself that you're trying to work on every single day?
So what a lot of people would say is one of my stronger qualities is what I think my weakest one is, and it's one I work on consistently. So leading people is something that I work on every single day. I've always seen myself as not necessarily a follower, but more like a lone wolf. If you gave me a task, I would go out and I would accomplish the task. I was great in individual sports like running because it was just me. I didn't have to rely on the team. When we play pickup basketball, I'm the guy that takes it to the hole every time. You know, not a great shooter, but I'm going to challenge myself in those ways. So it's hard for me to relate to other people because the only mindset I had for probably almost 30 years was, I can do that. I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to put in the time. I'm going to put in the work, and I'm going to destroy this task. I'm going to be number one. I'm going to do whatever I've got to do. So having the ability to understand that Louise isn't me has been the biggest struggle that I have on a daily basis, is having that empathy for people and understanding their emotional intelligence, so that you can get the best out of them. So I'm constantly trying to study humanity. And so one of the things I talk about pretty regularly, I've quoted several, may have told you before, but Jocko Willink talks about the key to great leadership is understanding people. It's understanding humanity. So understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each person you have, understanding what motivates them, that's what I try and work on every single day. And to take that a step further, understanding humanity, we're put on this earth to know, love, and seek God. So humanity is the search for God, and that's my mindset. That's the direction that I see it heading. So knowing God, seeking God, whatever you call that. Some people call that money, and that they make money a god. And so understanding that they're searching for that. That's my motivation. I want to make as much money as I can. Okay. For some people, that's seeking a significant other. For some people, that's seeking validation. But all of those things are trying to get closer to what I call God, Yahweh. So when I start looking at that's when I really start trying to understand and comprehend what makes us all tick. So that, to me, that's my greatest weakness, is that empathy and that what I call leadership.
Nice. Okay. Interesting. I think that about sums it up. I want to make sure that I got Becca's question in here. She had a good question for you.
Oh, Lordy.
Now, we might have to bring her in here because I didn't write her name by it. Becca!
You have a question on there, don't you?
Let's see. Oh, I already asked you her question.
Which one?
Her question was, who is the most influential person? She wanted you to talk about Jeff Taylor.
Yeah. Jeff Taylor. Yeah.
Why did you talk about Jeff Taylor?
So Jeff was very influential as far as my real estate business goes.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up then. That was about 20 questions.
Well, we went through a good bit there. So the biggest thing for me is I want to add value for the folks watching us on YouTube or whatever platform you're listening to us on, giving you insight on what makes me tick, on some successes and failures I've had. We're going to bring other folks on that can speak on things like this. Understanding humanity, that was a great question to end on. It will help every single one of you guys that are watching. Understanding how people work, what motivates them, that'll help you become a leader. It'll help you work through things that you may have put on the back burner and not really attacked in your own personal life. And maybe one of our interviews can help you work through that. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I meet people daily. I talk with people all the time, and I know that those failures that you come across, those and sharing those with other people has helped me kind of work through some of the issues that I have in understanding my own self. So I just want to encourage you guys to continue watching us. This is episode 1 of the Richard Neese podcast. We're hoping to have hundreds more. We'd love for you guys to follow us and what we're doing, not just on the podcast, but on other stuff as well. And we've got plenty of construction projects going. If you want to learn more about real estate investing, we can help you with that too. But the biggest thing is we want to connect with you. We want this to be social media. We want to have that connection. Subscribe, comment, ask questions, make fun of me. I don't care. I mean, I'm old for all of that. If you guys like, maybe we'll start a support group, Native American flute music. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm good with that.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Richard Neese podcast. We hope you guys had a great time and continue to support us and follow us.